Hey guys, this is Henry again, back with another video. Again, highly requested. This is going to be the Clone Wars Commanders ranking tier list. I asked in the end of the last video, at the end of the Rebel one, if you guys wanted to see the CIS and Republic separate, or if you wanted to see them together. And the feedback I got was, let's do them together, since they only have 6 commanders each. It would be a short video anyway, and so I figured we're going to do them all together. I continue to appreciate the support on the previous videos. Thank you guys so much for watching and for subscribing and for really, pushing me forward doing this content, all the kind words. I really appreciate that. Before I get into rankings, couple things. Number one, a big disclaimer off the top. All these cards are very new compared to the Empire and the Rebels. A lot of these cards would be better with more material. More ships, more squads, more upgrades, etc. So I want to preface all of my rankings today with a big asterisk that I have not played these commanders as much as Imperial and Rebel commanders. No one has. I guess maybe if you just started when these came out, maybe you've played them more, but that's about it. And secondly, there's a lot of things that are still being discovered with these commanders that could move them up or down in coming months or years. And thirdly, like I said earlier, new content coming out, like new ships, new squads and stuff, could drastically change these rankings. But for now, I'm going to do my best, share my opinion on where I think they stand right now. The other thing that I want to bring the attention to, that some eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed, is we've got a B+ and a B- tier. That's because, there's going to be some close rankings, and I know in past videos, with certain tiers seeming to be far apart, but commanders not actually being that different in terms of power, we're going to go with a B+ and a B- because there's a spoiler alert, a lot of stuff in the middle. So with that out of the way, let's get started with probably the most popular Republic commander, the one I've seen the most, the one I've played against the most. It's Admiral Tarkin before he went bad, or maybe he was already bad, who knows. I'm going to put him in A tier, and I want to, I think it was good last video. I'll go through what each commander does, especially since these are so new, relatively speaking, of course. At the start of each ship phase, you may discard 1 command token from this card. If you do, either you may gain 1 matching command dial, or each friendly ship gains 1 matching command token. A few things to go over with Tarkin here. Number 1, you get 6 tokens of whatever you want, which is always good. I feel like commanders that give you that flexibility are always strong. Second thing, when it says you gain a dial, that means the ship that Tarkin is on. So your flagship can gain the extra dial, or you can give each friendly ship 1 matching command token, which again, I like that as a lot of flexibility. The Clone Wars factions do a lot with tokens. A lot of the commanders do stuff with tokens. And I think Tarkin is one of the best examples of this. The flexibility he gives you with being able to take tokens on everybody, round 1, give everyone a nav or a repair or a squad, depending on what list you're running, or a confire. Just grabbing something on everyone is always good. At the top of the round, too, which can be very important. And then the ability to take an extra dial if you want to, like, pseudo-Thrawn for a round. Just the fact that he can be so flexible is, I think, what makes him so good. I think he's better than Imperial Tarkin, even with the points decrease. Just because he's, like I keep saying, it's beating a dead horse here. He's so flexible, and I think that is so underrated in Armada, the ability to adapt to whatever the game state is and be able to go in different directions and do different things. And for 30 points, he's very good. Now, one thing I'd like to shout out in the comments of my Rebel tier list video, someone mentioned you could also look at it as the cheapest commander being 20 points, so just make that the new 0 and say Tarkin is 10 points, since you have to have a commander. That's a fair way to look at it. So however you want to look at it, 30 points or 10 points, I think Tarkin is very good. He's very fairly costed for what he does. Let's go on to the Spider, Trench. Trench is probably one of the most complex commanders in the game as to what he does. There's a lot of text on that card, and he's kind of difficult to place. But I'm going to place him in B plus, and some people might think that's a little high, because Trench is not played all that much. And that's because he's very hard to play. He's like a harder Thrawn, a harder Tarkin. Let me go ahead and read him here. You can place 4 dials on him, whatever you want them to be, face down, kind of like Thrawn. At the start of each ship phase, you may reveal and discard 1 command dial from this card. If you do, until the end of the round, when a friendly ship spends only a matching command token to resolve a command, that ship resolves that command as if it had spent a dial and a token of the same type. Some things to draw your attention to. And I'm going to make a lot of comparisons to Thrawn because these are 2 similar commanders. Thrawn gets 3 dials of whatever you want. At the start of the round, you can reveal 1, and all your ships unequivocally gain that dial for the turn. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and very strong. Trench says you get 4 dials, and when you reveal 1, every ship gains a quote-unquote like dial and token of that type if it only spends a matching command token. And so let me make an example here. So let's say you have a Recusant and you've got a Confire token on the Recusant. You reveal at the start of the round, start of the ship phase, you reveal a Confire dial with Trench. And then you reveal a Nav dial with your Recusant. So your Recusant gets to Nav, like normal, its own dial. If you spend the you can spend the command token to resolve the command token's effect, except if you spend the Confire token and Trench has a Confire dial, you get the effect of the token and the effect of the Confire dial. So let's say you go to shoot and you spend the Confire token. You get to add a die and reroll a die in addition to naving, or whatever your normal command was. So like I said, a lot going on there. It takes reading through him a couple times and maybe even getting him on the table before you can really, understand exactly what he does. And I'll get to the elephant in the room. He's 36 points. He's very expensive. I would say he's overcosted. His ability is very strong, particularly when you get into crap like T-Series TAC Droid or Passel or something where you can do 3 command dials and a token every turn. Or several turns. That can get pretty disgusting. I think he's really, really good with Providences and Recusants who want to be doing multiple things in a turn a lot of the time. But he is 36 points, and that is very pricey. So I think he deserves to come down a few points. Absolutely. And I'm taking that into account with my rankings, points efficiency. But the fact that you can do him on 4 different turns and he can be that effect that he gives is very strong. The reason you don't see him very much is A, he's sometimes prohibitively expensive, but B, you really have to build around him. You have to have a good amount of token generation to be able to use him effectively, and you have to plan a lot in advance. He's kind of the big brain commander. Like he takes a lot of brain power to play at a high level. And so I think that's why you don't see him very much. But he's very, very good, and I look forward to more people figuring him out. He is definitely someone, though, who wants more product to work with. He wants better squad pushers for the CIS. He wants more different kinds of ships. He wants a couple cheaper ships, because right now when you run him, if you're going to run squads, it's very hard to get 4 ships with him, which is kind of a shame, because the current meta, I feel like 4 ships is kind of where you need to be unless you really have a plan to run 3 ship or something like that. But anywho, Trench, B plus tier. I think he's quite strong, just could use a little help. Next we've got someone who's going to be joining him in B plus tier, and that's Yularen. I'm going to put Yularen just ahead of Trench, and there's a few reasons for that. But first I want to go through what Yularen does, because he's, I think, got the most text out of anybody here. When a friendly ship resolves a squadron command, if it spent a squadron token, it may activate 1 additional squadron. When a friendly ship resolves a repair command, it may spend engineering points on the following repair effect. Repair squadron. Spend 2 points to choose a friendly squadron at distance 1 to 3. That squadron recovers 1 hull point. So 2 main things going on here. One, you get your squad tokens are just better. It's kind of like that Liberty title. I forget exactly which one it is. Yeah, I forget which one it is. But you get to activate 2 squads with a token, essentially, which is pretty cool. So you can do some bullshit like activate 8 squads with a Venator, which is nuts, and I'll get to that in a second. But the other part of his ability is that repairing squadrons effect, and I, for a while, did not think that was all that great. And then I played a game against my friend Taserface, and he was really using it to its full effect. He had a Venator, a Pelta, and 2 Consulars, and man, it's really annoying when you can have your opponent just start healing their squads in the middle of a dogfight. That can get really annoying. Now, there's an opportunity cost there. The ship could be doing something else, but it's like a nice extra effect to have. So I think he's top of B plus tier, and it's a complex situation. At 24 points, he's very cheap in terms of Clone Wars commanders. He's one of the cheapest. I think he's very good for his price. The big thing I value him for is that 8 squad alpha, because no other ship or nothing else in the game can do that. Can activate 8 squads at once, and that's with flight controllers on the Venator if you want them, which is insane. I want to bring up a couple examples here. So let's say you've got a medium squad wing, so I don't know, 75 to 100 points of squads. You're mainly using them as a deterrent, but they can also go bomb ships and stuff. It is not inconceivable that no matter what faction you're playing, Yularen can wipe out your entire squad wing in one go. Let's say you are Sloan and you've got a bunch of squads. You're running 4 aces with Gather and stuff, so that's neat, but you also have a lot of low hull generics, or at least a few. Yularen can jump in and kill 4 to 5 of your squadrons. Again, not inconceivable that he does that, particularly with V19s and Ahsoka and crap like that. Let's say you're running my list, my signature assault frigate Agate list with a bunch of rogues. That is hell on earth to go against Yularen, because A, Yularen can alpha you and probably kill 3 to 4 of those squads, even with high hull, and B, you hit him with rogues, next turn he activates something, he's like, okay, I'm going to heal 3 points on that one squadron, or I'll heal 3 points on a bunch of squadrons, or something like that. That can be super annoying to deal with. What makes him so good is that he doesn't give you a chance to respond. When Yularen hits you with 8 squads, he doesn't give you a chance to respond. Something like the Quasar can throw, I believe 6 is the max it can throw at one time. Still really good, and that used to be the best. But now, at least you had a chance to respond to that. Versus Yularen, a lot of times can hit you and you lose half your fighter wing, or you get bombed the crap out of because 8 squads are hitting you. So I think he can be really, really good. The thing that holds him back from being in the top 2 tiers is that it's hard to make the perfect squad ball with GAR right now. I think you can make really effective ones, but he just really wants another squadron pack, or a rogues and villains pack or something to give the Republic more options. And I think once he has that, once he has more good squads to work with, he's going to be astronomically better. I could easily see him being one of the best commanders in the game, purely for the 8 squad alpha. If you can build a better ball of squads, sky's the limit on him. But that's enough about Yularen. Let's hop over to Bail. I am going to put Bail in A tier behind Tarkin. I don't think he's quite as good as Tarkin, but he's close. Let me go through what he does. When a friendly ship reveals a command, you may discard up to 1 token of each type from this card. For each token you discard, that ship gains 1 additional command dial matching that token's type. As we continue with a bunch of token and extra dial and stuff commanders, Bail does something similar in some ways to Tarkin. And that's why I think he's a little bit below him, but we'll get there. 28 points on Bail, which is not bad. Kind of middle of the pack, so it doesn't hurt the wallet too much to take him. You can only put nav and repair tokens on him, which is important. He'd be nuts if you could put Confire and Squad on him, but that's probably why they didn't do that. I think nav and repair are the right ones to put on him. You can potentially get 2 extra dials with him in a single go, which can be very, very good. He allows Republic ships who are notoriously bad at, like, with their nav charts to kind of get a get out of jail free card. You could build a list with, like, where you want to play super aggressive and get in there and kind of dance around like your JJ or something, or Maydeen, and you can just put a bunch of free nav dials on him. And so you can activate squads and nav, or you can repair and nav, or you could do 3 things for a couple turns, which is very cool. Again, another commander that gives you a ton of flexibility, which is why I'm putting him in A tier. The reason I'm putting him below Tarkin is because a lot of times when you're list building, unless you really, really want to be navving or run some stupid tanky list, Tarkin is better because Tarkin helps the whole fleet all at once with those command tokens. He lets you refresh parts resupply, munitions resupply, lets you power IF, do a bunch of stuff. And importantly, Tarkin lets you do stuff with Confire and squads, where Bale does not. Bale literally can't help you with Confire and squads. I guess he can indirectly, because you can natively take those commands on the ship and then know that you'll have a nav or repair if you need it. But I think Tarkin's a little bit more flexible, and he's worth the 2 extra points in a lot of cases. Not to say Bale is at all bad. I mean, Bale's A tier. Bale is very, very good. I would honestly love to see Bale in another faction. I think he'd be sick in both Empire and Rebels. But as it stands, I think he's just slightly not quite as good as Tarkin, but still very, very strong. So A tier for him. Next, we've got Count Dooku. And this is a hard one to rank, but I'm going to put him in the B- tier, or lowest commander yet. Let me get into what he does, and then I'll talk about him. Surprise, surprise, we have another guy who's dealing with command dials and tokens on his commander card. Wow, wow, wow. You must choose at least 2 types of command tokens for this card. At the start of each ship phase, you may discard 1 command token from this card. If you do, each enemy ship gains a raid token matching that command token. Alright, so why is Dooku good? Well, raid has never been great, but it can be good against certain fleets. And one thing I want to draw attention to is a player by the name of Fox Omega on the Discord and stuff. I wish I knew his real name, but we all know him as Fox Omega. A very good player. I had the pleasure of playing with him on my team in one of the team events on Vassal. Really, really cool guy. He had a lot of success with Dooku in tournament, and it was kind of surprising to a lot of people. He's really been one of the only people I've seen have a lot of success with Dooku. And one of the big things that Dooku is good at is beating abandoned mining facility, the yellow objective. It's very, very popular. It's kind of like a cop-out, because I find generally yellow or defense objectives to be the weakest for second player, the hardest to like pick when you're building a fleet. So AMF's kind of an easy one, because most fleets can farm stuff, and a lot of people were running it for a while. And Dooku really throws a wrench into that. You can pick your opponent's AMF, or even run it yourself, and tell your opponent, all right, first 3 rounds of the game, I'm going to repair raid you, and so you're really going to struggle to farm, or you're going to have to spend dial and token to farm, which can be very good, and you can get out to an early lead with that. He's also very good against squadron heavy things that have non-rogue squadrons that need to command them. He can be a real thorn in their side with all these squad repairs, or against any fleet. He's nav raid's always good, and so that's why he's good. He also, like, keep talking it up, flexibility is good, and you can pick what you need to depending on the game. The reason Dooku is not good is he's 30 points. Your opponent knows exactly which tokens you're picking on him, so they know what they're going to be going up against. And raid is ultimately not that strong of a mechanic. You have so many ways to generate tokens nowadays that while it can be inconvenient, it's pretty easy to get raid tokens off yourself. and so he's not very oppressive, and you only get to do it on 3 rounds, and you have to choose at least 2 types of tokens. I think I may have misspoke earlier, offhandedly saying you could do 3 of something. You have to do at least 2 types, so you can only do max 2 of one thing. So like 2 repairs or 2 squads or something like that. I apologize that I misspoke earlier on that. I'm sure a bunch of you are already angrily typing in the comments telling me that's not how it works. I'm sorry. Forgot to read too close. But anyway, he doesn't always get you enough for 30 points. In a lot of lists, he's just a minor inconvenience. Versus a lot of these commanders on here can be game-changing. Dooku kind of just annoys your opponent and sets them back a little bit, with the niche exceptions of being quite good against carrier fleets and quite good against people running AMF. Outside of those, he's just not amazing. If you could somehow pair him with another commander we've got on the list, Freedom Bot down here, if you could somehow, like, I guess if you were doing a campaign and you were allowed to have 2 commanders, like in a team or something, he'd be nuts. But outside of that, he's just not great. I think he's better than a lot of the Rebel and Imperial commanders, and that's why I'm not putting him lower than B- tier. But he's definitely one of the weakest commanders here. Next up, we are going to grab someone who I think is not a whole lot stronger than Dooku, and that's Grievous. Grievous has the notable prize of being the only CIS commander not taken in the Vassal World Cup this past year, so good for him. Let me read what he does here real quick to share with all of you. When a friendly ship or squadron is destroyed, you may choose one friendly ship or unique squadron at distance 1 to 5 of the destroyed ship or squadron. If you do, the chosen ship or unique squadron might either ready one of its defense tokens or recover one of its discarded defense tokens and then exhaust that token. On the surface, pretty cool ability. You're kind of ruthless, like Grievous is. And he's 20 points. Hey, we love cheap commanders. Agate's the best Rebel commander. Ramadi is one of the best Imperial ones. We love cheap commanders. Some cool things you can do with Grievous. Number 1, he really fits the CIS doctrine of just throwing squads at your opponent. Cheap, expendable squads, just throw them in, and even you can RHD them back. It's pretty cool, and refresh all your tokens. You can also fly your own squadrons off the board. If they're close enough, you have to be at 1 to 5 of your ship or your unique squadron. But it's just like, boy, I really need this brace to get thermals back up and running without discarding it. I'm going to throw a vulture off the board. That's totally fine, and that's kind of a cool niche thing you can do. And the fact that he's 20 points cannot be overstated. He is the cheapest commander the CIS has by a decent margin, and a lot of times you just need that. It was kind of like why people took Dodonna so much in the past. You kind of just need a cheap commander. But the reason he's in B- tier is that you kind of have to run him with squads. It's not really worth running him with ships, like just ships. You have to lose and sacrifice things to get his ability to go off. And his ability effect is situationally very good, but generally just fine. There's a reason that no one took him to the Vassal World Cup, and a reason he's not very played a whole lot. I think people have had good success with him. I think his lists with him have done remarkably well when they've been played, but he's kind of boring, and he's not great. The ability to ready or recover a defense token and exhaust it is not amazing return on losing a ship or squad. He seems like the kind of commander who, like, when it happens, when you lose a squad or when you lose a ship, he's nice to have. But a lot of times your squads and stuff are going to be dying when you have all your tokens readied. And so you're losing all your cheap squadrons that you were going to use for his ability. You're losing them before you're actually doing anything with them for Grievous's effect. He's fine. I think he's a little bit better than Dooku. I think he's a cool commander, but just not much better. Not better than B-. Now we get into one of the OGs. I guess Dooku was the other OG. But get into one of my favorite Clone Wars commanders, and that's Kraken. I think he's a really, really cool commander, and I'm going to put him right in the middle of A tier. Between the two token boys. And, well, I guess they can get dials. Kraken for anyone who is not familiar. Let's go through his ability. Once per activation, when a friendly ship is attacking a ship, if another friendly ship is at close medium range of the defender, the attacker may change one die to a face with any one icon and no other icons. Worth noting right off the top, it's once per activation. Doesn't have to be your activation. You can do this on a salvo attack when your opponent's attacking you once per activation, which is pretty cool. He is 30 points, so he's more towards the expensive side, but he is a much better 30-point commander than Dooku is. The ability to, we're going to get back to flexibility here, the ability to know that you'll be able to change a die to an accuracy when you really need it is great, or change it to a crit to get crit effects off is great. He has like the condition of you have to have a ship at close to medium of the defender, but that's not that hard. And the CIS have some good options for tanky ships that you don't mind putting, closer to your opponent. He's kind of like free H9s on everybody in a lot of cases, or free, I forget what they're called, weapons battery techs, whoever lets you change stuff to a crit. He kind of lets you avoid taking certain upgrades because you can get them off of his effect. I really like Kraken. I like the playstyle he encourages of getting something in there and rolling dice and stuff. I like the flexibility he gives of being able to set a die to whatever you need it to be, outside of a double. I like the fact that he works on salvo attacks because I think salvo is a great mechanic. And I think he's fairly costed for 30 points. You can run some really cool lists with him. He's had a lot of success. He's not a top tier commander, but I think he's great as one of the first CIS commanders you pick. I think he was a really good inclusion in the starter set. I think Dooku was kind of a weird inclusion there, but I think Kraken was perfect. He's fresh. It's a cool ability. I just think he's really great overall, and I think he deserves A tier. Next up, we're gonna do our first S tier here. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Luminara is S tier. She, in my opinion, is the best Republic commander, and it's not even that close. I guess Tarkin is kind of close to her, but I think she's undeniably better than Tarkin in most cases. Let me read her here. Well, a friendly ship or unique squadron is defending. After the spend defense token step, if it spent fewer than 2 defense tokens, it may either ready one of its defense tokens it did not spend, or choose another friendly ship at distance 1 to 5 and ready one of that ship's defense tokens. She can do some pretty cool stuff. First of all, I want to point out 25 points. Bargain. Absolutely a bargain. I think 25 points is a fantastic competitive price point, and she is so good for that price. Just clarifying something here. You have to spend fewer than 2 defense tokens. You can't spend 2. You have to spend 1 or none. You may also refresh stuff on other ships or yourself, which can be important. She is really good with thermals. She is very good with salvo tech. She is very good against Sloane. That's probably why she's an S tier, honestly. She's a great counter to Sloane in some ways. She has some weird stuff that goes on with Sloane where she can refresh tokens because she's not spending them, yada yada yada. I won't go too much into that because that's a long conversation. But the fact that I think Sloane is the best commander in the game, it's close, but I think Sloane's the best commander in the game. And the fact that Luminara has such a good matchup against her is part of what makes her so good. But on top of that, thermals are great, and the fact that you can get them back in thermals more than once in a round without actually discarding your brace is really cool. The fact that she works when aces spend their defense tokens. The fact that she's great with Axe because he can keep spending his tokens and refreshing the other one. It's really cool. Now you do have to be defending. That is the one thing you have to do. So Axe can't spend a token for his ability to refresh the other token. You have to actually be defending. But you can be super flexible. Axe spent one of his tokens and then the ship got shot. Well, the ship spent 1 or 0 defense tokens, so you can refresh Axe's thing, and so on and so forth. There's so much she can do. She's great in a lot of lists. She's great in double Venator. She's great in lists with running all 4 aces. She's good with a bunch of smalls. She's good with everything. I don't know that there's a single list in the game she's not good in, and that's what makes her S tier. Is she's so good at fitting everything and fitting a bunch of different play styles, letting you be more aggressive, letting you take risks and spend things without having to worry too much. I think she's awesome, and I think she's S tier. But she's not the best commander on this list, and that's because Martuk is the best commander on this list. I know it's not perfect to compare apples to oranges here. It's not like the GAR can take Martuk. It's not like the CIS can take Luminara. And that's part of the issue with doing a combined tier list like this is we're comparing commanders between two different factions, which is not perfect. So I'm going to try to keep comparing them to within their own faction. And so Martuk is hands down the best CIS commander, and I think she's a little bit better than Luminara too. I don't actually know. I'm pretty sure it's a she, but I guess I don't know that. I could be totally wrong. Martuk. While a friendly ship is attacking, if the defending hull zone has at least one shield remaining, the attacker may add one die to its attack pool. While a friendly ship is attacking a ship that has no shields remaining, after rolling attack dice, the attacker must cancel one die. So we'll start with price point, 28 points, very competitive. Again, kind of middle of the pack for CIS. That ability, man, when Martuk came out, I didn't know that they'd be this good. I was kind of in love with Kraken at the time. I was like, that drawback on Martuk doesn't seem like they'll be amazing. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of situations where your opponent has literally no shields. And it creates an interesting problem for your opponent. The biggest thing that, I'll get to that in a second, the biggest thing that makes Martuk great is that they work on every ship all the time. Because all the CIS ships have at least one red die somewhere. And the ability to just add a red die to every shot unless your opponent doesn't have shields in that hull zone or at all is amazing. And the fact that she, I'm pretty sure it's a she. I don't know. I don't. The fact that they get to add that die into their attack pool while attacking is great because it gets around thermals. It's great because you can do it at long range, any range, which is a lot of flexibility. You can make dice pools much bigger than your opponent initially expects they're going to be. Like let's say a hard sell battle with slave turrets and a confire dial can roll 6 dice. That's nuts. She just kind of makes every shot better in most cases. That drawback is not very relevant because a lot of times your opponent's going to have one hull zone that they're not defending in or redirecting to. It's kind of like on the one part of their ship that stuff's not happening, and so they end up with like one shield or 2 shields back there. It's hard for them to use those shields. Also, your opponent doesn't really want to give you open hull zones to shoot at. Like Martuk with XI7s can be brutal because your opponent is like, yeah, I don't really want shields in that hull zone because Martuk's going to get an extra die, but I also need shields in that hull zone because I'm not going to be able to protect myself. Or Martuk with accuracy tech is great. One of my favorite builds in the game is a Recusant with Patriot's Fist, H9s, and Martuk. So cheap, so effective. So I think that Martuk is the best commander on this list. I think the drawback is not very consequential in a lot of cases. They create a lot of hard decisions for your opponent of, do I redirect all my shields away or do I keep some here? What do I do? And the fact that just adding dice after you while attacking is such a good thing in the game right now. It's so strong because thermals are so good. You also get an informed thing when you have that downside. You get to roll first and then cancel a die, so you don't have to actually just get rid of one before you roll. You can roll, and then if you got a blank, no problem, get it out of there. So Martuk, fantastic commander, one of the best in the game. I'm going to try to speed up a little bit here because I think we're taking a little while. I apologize for that, but I like to give detailed opinions on these commanders. Obi-Wan, bottom of B+. Solid commander, not amazing. 28 points, so again, kind of middle of the pack, not too bad. While a friendly ship is defending, if it spends a readied redirect token, it may reduce the total damage by 1 before it suffers damage. A couple things about Obi-Wan. You can do cool stuff with expert shield techs. You can put EWS on stuff and have expert shield techs and Obi-Wan and take like no damage from the front. It's pretty cool. He works on every ship with a redirect token, which, if my memory serves, is every ship the GAR has. 28 points is not too difficult to fit into a list. And the fact that you just get to reduce damage or reduce total damage before it's suffering it can be good for like brace calculations and stuff like that. The reason he's not amazing is that A, the Republic doesn't have anything with a double redirect. B, he has to spend a readied redirect token, so that's kind of limiting in some cases. And C, he's not amazing for what he does. He's a defensive commander, but he kind of pigeonholes you. Like I said, with the restriction, you have to have a readied redirect token. And while you can spend it, and that's something to point out here, you can spend it and get the normal effect, whether that's actually using the redirect effect or using it for expert shield techs. So you get to spend it. It's not like you're doing it instead of getting the normal effect, like EST is. But he just is not a great option for the Republic. I think they have much better commanders. Like, if you want to run a defensive commander, why are you not running Luminara? It's purely because you made a conscious decision not to run Luminara. You can make the argument that he's better if you're going to run like a 5 or 6 all-ship list. Luminara kind of wants to get those aces in there, but even then, she doesn't need them. And she's 3 points cheaper. So, Obi-Wan, while very solid, I don't think is amazing, and that's what puts him at the bottom of B+. Still, I would call him an above-average commander overall, but for the terms of what the Republic has and on this list, just doesn't crack that top half there. Next up, we have Plo Koon, who is going to be joining 2 of the CIS commanders right in the middle of B-. Let me read him first, and then we'll get into analysis. Well, a friendly squadron is attacking a ship that is at distance 1 to 3 of a friendly ship. The attacker may add 1 blue die set to an accuracy icon to its attack pool. That die cannot be rerolled or changed. Friendly squadrons without Adept gain grit, while they are at distance 1 of a friendly squadron with Adept. That second part, it's not super relevant. It's nice every once in a while. It's like, oh, I can actually use grit here. That's cool. But not a whole lot of games where you're going to have stuff being locked down by one enemy squadron. So situationally fine, but not super relevant. He's 26 points, so he is one of the cheapest options that the Republic has, which is cool. The ability to add accuracy dice to bombers is sick. That is really cool with Anakin. That is really cool with ARCs and Y-Wings and stuff. Even cool with V-19s, especially with Navuta B. But, and it's a pretty big but, and that's why he's in B- tier. He only works with squadrons, so a little inflexible there. And there's a lot of commanders that only work with squadrons. Yularen, Grievous to a certain extent, Sloane. Plo Koon is not better than any of them. He has quite a few restrictions. You have to be running squadrons. You have to have a friendly ship at 1 to 3 of the defending ship. An accuracy icon is not always relevant. While good, especially good if you can constantly keep your opponent from redirecting, you can kind of drill into a hull zone. He doesn't actually help your squads at all in the squad war, where Yularen does, where Sloane does. And so you have to win the squad war or hope your opponent's going squadless, and then you have to bring a ship into what in a lot of cases is the danger zone. I think he can be situationally very good, and he is another commander on this list who would be better with more squads. Like if there were rogues in if GAR had rogues, he'd be great, and maybe he will someday be great. He and Yularen are on my list as people who could get so much better with more product, and they probably will if there's ever any more product released. But as it stands right now, he's just kind of hard to use effectively, and I think that's reflected in his tournament placings. I've seen people be very successful with him, and in a lot of matchups he can be downright oppressive. But compared to everything else, I think he's the worst option the Republic has right now. All that being said, I still think he's a solid commander if we're looking at everything overall. I would love him with the Rebels. Oh man, he'd be great. But that's not the world we live in, and you can't really judge commanders like that. And so I think for what the options the GAR has and for what he does at his price, he is just not amazing. And that's why he's in B- tier. Finally, I'm going to make people who love balanced things very happy. I'm going to put Raid Bot, Freedom Bot in S tier so we can have a nice 3 and everything. As you'll see, I'm not using these 2 tiers. I think that compared to everything else, Clone Wars commanders are very solid, and none of them deserve C or F tier. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, maybe someday we will decide that they deserve C or F tier. Just need more testing, just need more time with them, and hopefully more product. But let me not get ahead of myself. What is his actual name? TF1726. Raid Bot, Freedom Bot, a lot of names he has. What does he do? Once per activation, while a friendly ship is attacking a ship, the attacker adds 1 black die to its attack pool for each raid token the defender has to a maximum of 2 additional dice. He got teased like right before the Rocket Troopers. I think it was the same day they got shown off, but I think we knew about him in the Discord before we knew about Rocket Troopers and Jedi Hostage, and everyone thought he was trash because raid sucks and there's not a lot of ways to get raid on ships. But Rocket Troopers made him. Jedi Hostage, it's fine card. I'm not going to complain about it. I thought it was pretty bad when I originally saw it, but now, playing with it and playing against it, I think it's a solid card. Kind of hard to fit into lists sometimes and has sometimes a serious drawback, but also quite good. But Rocket Troopers is what made Freedom Bot good. The fact that both things happen while attacking is you can roll your attack pool, then put a raid on someone, and then add TF's die in there, or dice, which can be great. He's also great with surprise attack because you get free raids on stuff. He is really good for 2 main reasons, in my opinion. Number 1, he is another add dice commander. Same thing as Martuk. Adding dice while attacking gets around thermals. He also can add blacks at any range, which is why you see him run with Patriot's Fists with Swivels and APTs and stuff like that. You can throw blacks at long, which is, Sato is rolling because he's so conditional to do that. TF's like, yeah, I just got to have a raid token and then bang, bang, let's go. He is also good because he wants to use raid, and so you run him with raid tech. And I've gone back and forth with raid. I don't think it's super strong, but it can situationally be very strong. And so the lists that run a lot of raid tech so that they can make use of Freedom Bot tend to be good because you're getting extra dice for already putting something potentially debilitating on your opponent. So it can kind of all add up. And when you run multiple ships with Rocket Troopers, close medium range is lethal because it's not that hard to get 2 raid tokens on someone and start throwing like a lot of extra damage. That's potentially 4 extra damage, or it's an APT or something like that. So I think the combination of those 2 things and the fact he's 26 points, he's remarkably cheap, is very good. What holds him back from dethroning Martuk, and is a little bit worse than Luminara, is that you have to run Rocket Troopers with him. If the CIS ever get squads with Assault or some other way to put raid on ships, I think he gets better. His stock instantly rises, and maybe he's the best commander in the game. Who knows? But until that point, your only reliable option is Rocket Troopers, and so you have to spend 7 points on basically every combat ship you take to be able to use him, and that can add up quickly. That's the only thing that holds him back. But I think, tournament results are proving, and popularity is proving that he's really, really good. And he's fun. He's a cool commander idea. They finally made raid genuinely good. Dooku is down here sobbing because TF actually made raid good. And fun to play and cool to play and effective. So that's why he's S tier. But that's going to wrap this up. I know this has been a super long video, so any of you who are still watching, thank you so much for sticking with it. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is very hard to rank these on a tier list because we haven't had enough time with them. I haven't played enough games with or against them. So maybe my opinions will evolve in the future. Maybe community sentiment will evolve in the future. I could be way off, and a lot of this could change with new product. But as it stands right now, this is my opinion on the rankings here. I'm thinking about taking a little bit of a break from tier lists and doing some other content for a little while. But then I do want to come back, and maybe it will be my next video, doing a wrap up of like a whole commander tier list from all the factions. And then I've also got a lot of requests to do like ship tier lists and squad tier lists and stuff. I'll get there. I promise I'll get there. Just wanted to wrap up the commander stuff first. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all the kind words and the feedback I'm getting. I'm really happy to be making Armada content. I love this community. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.